You've probably stared at the back of a computer or laptop and thought, what is all this? There's holes of every shape, size and color, and most people only ever use 2 or 3 of them. But every single one of those ports has a story, a reason it exists, a problem it was built to solve. Let's go through all of them. USB. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. Before USB showed up in 1996, connecting anything to a computer was a nightmare. Different devices needed different ports. Printers had one connector, keyboards had another, mice had another. It was a mess. USB was designed to fix all of that with one standard port, one connector, one protocol, works with everything. That was the idea, and it mostly worked. Over time, USB changed. USB 1.0 was slow. USB 2.0 in 2000 bumped speeds to 480 megabits per second, fast enough for most things at the time. USB 3.0 came in 2008 and pushed that to 5 gigabits per second, then 3.1, 3.2 and eventually USB 4, which can hit 40 gigabits per second. The shape changed too. You had Type A, the flat rectangular one everybody knows, Type B for printers, mini and micro USB for phones and cameras, and now USB-C, the small oval shaped connector that works in any direction, is slowly replacing everything else. USB-C deserves its own moment. It's not just a shape, it's a capability platform. One USB-C port can carry data, video, power all at the same time. That's why modern laptops can charge through USB-C and connect to a monitor through the same port. This is where things improve significantly. One port doing the job of 3 is a big deal for device design. HDMI. HDMI stands for High Definition Multimedia Interface. It showed up in 2002 and replaced a mess of older video connectors, VGA, S-Video, component cables, by carrying both audio and video through a single cable. Before HDMI, you needed one cable for video and a separate one for audio. HDMI combined them, clean, simple digital signal. HDMI has iterated quietly. HDMI 1.4 added 4K support. HDMI 2.0 pushed 4K to 60 frames per second. HDMI 2.1 now supports 4K at 120 fps and 8K at 60 fps, relevant mostly for high-end TVs and gaming monitors. The connector itself has 3 sizes: standard HDMI, mini HDMI and micro HDMI for smaller devices like cameras. DisplayPort. DisplayPort does similar things to HDMI but lives mostly in the PC world. It was developed by Versa in 2006 and has a technical advantage. It supports daisy chaining monitors, meaning you can now connect multiple displays in one chain from one port. DisplayPort 2.1 can push up to 80 gigabits per second, while ahead of HDMI on raw bandwidth. Most gaming monitors use DisplayPort for that reason. There's also mini DisplayPort, which Apple used heavily before switching to Thunderbolt and eventually USB-C. Thunderbolt started as a collaboration between Intel and Apple in 2011. The idea was a single high-speed port that could handle everything: data, video, power, external GPU, storage arrays, all at once. Thunderbolt 3 moved to USB-C connector, which caused a lot of confusion because the Thunderbolt 3 port and the USB-C port looked identical. Difference is in what's happening inside. Thunderbolt 3 runs at 40 gigabits per second. Standard USB-C varies. Thunderbolt 4 kept the 40 gigabit speed but tightened the requirements. You now had guaranteed performance and better compatibility. Thunderbolt 5 pushed to 120 gigabits per second in certain modes. 3.5 audio jack. The 3.5 headphone jack is the oldest port on this list. The connector design traces back to the 18th, originally used in telephone switchboards. It's been miniaturized over decades and landed on consumer electronics as a standard for headphones. It's analog. It converts electrical signal directly to sound. Simple, reliable, no drivers needed, works everywhere, which is why people were frustrated when smartphones started removing it. The argument from manufacturers was that it takes up space and USB-C can do the same job. The counter-argument is that analog audio through a dedicated jack has lower latency and zero compatibility issues. The debate is still going. The jack survived on most laptops. Ethernet. The Ethernet port, technically called an RJ45 port, is how computers connect to a network through a physical cable. Ethernet has been around since the 1970s, developed at Xerox PARC. Wired connection is faster and more stable than Wi-Fi. There is no signal interference, no shared bandwidth with neighbors, no latency spikes. For gaming, video editing, or anything that needs a reliable connection, Ethernet is still the better option. Standard Ethernet runs at 1 gigabit per second. 2.5G and 10G Ethernet exists on higher-end motherboards and networking equipment. A lot of thin laptops have dropped the Ethernet port to save space, which is why USB to Ethernet adapters exist. SD card slot. The SD card slot reads secure digital cards, the small storage cards used in cameras, drones, and some phones. It's a direct high-speed connection to store media without needing a cable or adapter. SD card speeds vary by class rating. UHS-1 tops out around 104 megabytes per second. UHS-2 can hit 312 megabytes per second. For photographers and videographers offloading large files, a built-in SD slot is significantly faster than using a USB card reader. Like Ethernet, many thin laptops drop this port. Like Ethernet, they are adapters. Legacy ports. A few ports worth knowing even though they are mostly gone. VGA, Video Graphics Array. The old blue video connector, analog signal, limited to 1080p at best, still found on older monitors and projectors. DVI, Digital Visual Interface. It came after VGA. It carried a digital signal but only video, no audio. Used heavily in 2000s before HDMI took over. PS/2. The small round ports, usually color-coded green and purple, for keyboards and mice. Predates USB. Technically still present in some desktop motherboards because they have advantages in specific professional or industrial setups. Serial and parallel ports. Large pin-based connectors used for printers and other peripheral devices, completely replaced by USB for consumer use. Here's the trend: ports are consolidating. USB and Thunderbolt are taking over. One connector, multiple capabilities. Audio, video, data, power, all through the same hole. This simplifies manufacturing and device design. It also means you need more adapters than ever if you're using older equipment. That's the trade-off. The result is that modern laptops often have 2 or 3 USB-C ports and very little else. Everything else is handled through hubs and docks. Every port you've ever seen on a computer exists because someone needed a standard way to solve a specific problem. Most of them worked, a few of them got replaced when something better came along, and a couple of them, like the headphone jack and Ethernet, have survived longer than anyone expected because simple things that work well are hard to kill.